So we've acknowledged and noticed that tendency to lift the shoulders up towards the ears. Let's make sure that we're releasing the shoulders away from the ears, bringing the back of the head to gently nod the chin a little closer to the chest, feeling that support at the back of the head. And then noticing that that support is equalized, balanced through the back of the hips. We can allow the weight of the legs to release, the back of the hips to sink a little more deeply into the earth beneath you. And observe what we mentioned earlier, that natural lift in the lower back. There's no need to fix that, just allow the spine to make its natural shape. As you bring your awareness to the breath, following the breath from the tip of the nose along the nasal passages. Slowing the breath down. Filling the lungs completely with every inhalation. Emptying the lungs fully with each full exhalation. As you turn your awareness to the breath, you're sending a message to the body to slow down, to switch off that fight or flight mode. And to tune in and observe the effects of the breath from the body. With each full inhalation, widening and expanding to fill the space that surrounds you. With each full exhalation, releasing your body of tension, of any negative energy. Every out breath, a letting go. Every in breath, charging your body and preparing yourself for the work of our practice today. Now take a moment to observe how you've come to rest your body. Notice if there's anywhere that you're perhaps still holding tension. Remind yourself to relax the fingers, to unclench the jaw, to soften the tongue in the well of the mouth, and to be receptive to that idea of slowing down, coming to the end of each full breath transaction. Taking a deep breath in through the nose and exhaling out through the mouth. A further deep breath in through the nose. A slightly noisier breath out through the mouth. Perhaps as you come to the next exhalation, releasing your breath with an audible sigh. Repeat that gesture of letting go. Then allow your breath to meander back to that natural, easy rhythm. Just so you don't feel that you're controlling the breath. And start to make little adjustments now to return sensation to the physical body. If you're lying with the legs long, Draw the feet a little closer together. If the knees are bent, take a moment to extend the legs along the mat. We'll start by gently turning the palms down towards the floor, then up again towards the ceiling. So we're just kind of working through the wrists, opening into that space across the collarbones. Then bringing the palms to rest again, backs of the hands to the floor, shoulder blades drawn together. Inhaling now to point through the toes, exhaling to flex the toes towards the shins. Inhaling to point through the toes, exhaling to flex. This time as you point through the toes, lift the arms overhead and take a long stretch through the body. On an out breath, lead with the right arm as you press through the fingertips, opening out through the side of the waist and the ribcage. Exhale to engage the core, then slide that left arm a little longer than the right. As you come back to center, draw the thumbs together in an interlock. Return the feet to flexion, pushing through the heels. On an out breath, squeeze the upper body to the right, finding space to the left of the waist and the ribcage. Then inhale to return to center. Another long stretch here. Draw the thumbs together again and interlock. Bring the toes towards the shins. Then exhale to squeeze to the opposite side. Inhale, come back to center and take a further long stretch through the body. On the out breath now, hug that right knee towards the chest. Just let the left leg relax, roll that foot out if that feels more comfortable. Pressing gently onto the right shin as you draw the thigh closer to the chest. Direct the right knee to the right shoulder. Then use the knee to draw little circles above the hips, mobilizing that space around the hip joint. Changing direction, taking that circle the opposite way. On an out breath, release the hands from the shin. On an in breath, take the arms overhead again and repeat that long body stretch. Exhale this time to draw the left knee in. Again, a little pressure onto the shin. Redirecting the knee out to the left shoulder. Then drawing those little circles with the knee. So all this time, we're just finding a little more release through the back of the sacrum. Inhaling again to lengthen, taking a long stretch. Then exhaling to draw both knees in, hands to the shins. Gently rocking from one hip to the other, almost as though you're soothing and releasing that tightness that exists over the back of the sacrum, and then rolling back to center. Take your arms wide into a T shape, so palms are turned up towards the ceiling, and roll the knees over to the right side as you turn your gaze along the length of the left arm. So oftentimes we feel that left shoulder lift in this position. So visualize breathing to that space at the side of the rib cage. With every exhale, release it, let it go. Soft through the neck as you keep your gaze gently over that left arm. On the next out breath, draw the tummy button in, roll the knees through center, and we'll gently take the knees to the opposite side. So we're just finding a little more space to the back of the hips, to the side of the right hip now. And again, by keeping that right shoulder weighted, by turning the gaze along the length of the arm, we're just encouraging more opening through the side of the chest into the rib cage. Then as you exhale, engage the core and roll the knees back through center. Let's reposition the hands either side of the hips, palms turned up. And I'm going to, for a moment, just pop the feet back on the mat with the knees bent as we lift the left leg up and over. We want to roll that left knee so that it lines up with the nose. So rather than keeping the knee open, we're drawing the knee in towards the chest, exhaling to engage the core, Then lifting that right foot from the mat, squeezing the right knee in towards the chest, deepening the stretch to the side of the hip, into that tight space that runs from the side of the hip to the side of the knee. Keeping the core engaged, then inhaling to press through the sole of the right foot, bringing the right foot parallel to the ceiling, inhaling to point, exhaling to flex. Then using the big toe of the right foot to draw 3 little circles in towards the midline of the body, changing direction, and rather than cutting corners, making sure you're working through full range of movement here. Bring the foot back to flexion, exhale, engage the core, bring that right knee to a bend again and squeeze the knee in towards the chest. Deepen the stretch to the outside of the thigh. As you exhale, lower the right foot to the floor. We'll reposition the hands. We're going to bring the right hand underneath the back of the head, the left hand under the right, opening the elbows, resting the upper arms, the forearms to the floor. So as we support the head, we're opening through the chest. On an out breath now, bring that left knee over the midline of the body, opening through the chest, creating a deeper stretch to the side of the hip. Then turn your gaze over the left elbow. Back of the head rested, the neck released, finding that deeper space through the side of the chest into the side of the hip. Then as you exhale, engage the core. As you roll the knee back to center, bring the head back to center. Unhook that left foot up and over, bringing the right foot to the same action. Repositioning the hands so that the left hand is now supporting the head, the right hand is on the floor. Then as you exhale, roll that knee over, turning the gaze over the length of the right arm. Wide through the chest, soft through the shoulders. Breathing into that space at the side of the rib cage and deepening the stretch to the outside of the right hip, the right buttock. As you exhale, draw the tummy button in, roll the knees back to center. Remove the hands from the side of the head and reposition the hands either side of the hips. Exhale to engage, lifting that left foot from the floor and squeezing that right knee in towards the chest. With every out breath, we're just toggling that knee a little closer, deepening the stretch here to the side of the hip. Then engaging the core, pressing the left heel straight up towards the ceiling. Sole of the foot parallel to the ceiling. Inhaling to point, exhaling to flex. Then again, repeating those little circles, mobilizing the ankle, releasing any creaks and groans here as you roll through both ranges of movement. Bring the foot back to flexion, exhale to engage the core, squeeze that left knee in towards the chest again, then replace that left foot to the mat. Unhook the right foot, positioning both heels hip width apart. So in essence, there's a little gap between the thighs, between the knees. The toes are pointing away rather than rolling out. Both hands again, either side of the hips, shoulder blades drawn together. Exhale to engage the core. Inhale to lift the bottom from the mat. So Sally, if you have tension in the lower back, sometimes there's a little resistance in this action. So gently extend the space to the front of the body without overdoing that clenching, that contraction on the lower back. Inhaling to press the shins forward, lifting the thighs a little higher, widening through the chest. Maintain your awareness on the breath. Inhaling deeply to the belly, the chest and the collarbones. Exhaling fully from the collarbones, the chest and the belly last. And inhale to press the shins a little more deeply forward. This time on the exhale, starting a gentle release, rolling down through the spine, vertebra by vertebra. Working through middle back, coming into lower back, and then allowing that space at the back of the hips to fully release and relax. Bring the soles of the feet together and roll the knees out, coming into a supine Baddha Konasana. Every out breath, allowing gravity to soften and release the inner thighs. Visualizing that space in and around the hips, softening, letting go. Any tension in the knees can be ironed out by pushing the heels a little further away from the ground, just to allow a less sharp bend at the knee. On the next inhalation, lift the arms overhead. We want to rest the backs of the hands to the floor. We can take the arms wide if that's more comfortable, allowing the full weight of the arms to release to the mat, expanding and widening through the chest, opening into this space. Then as you exhale, draw the tummy button in and guide the thighs towards one another. Reposition the heels hip width apart. Then as you exhale, draw the tummy button in. As you inhale, lift the bottom from the floor. So we're back to that supported bridge posture, this time with the arms overhead. We're going to work with the arms, with the breath. And as you exhale, we'll lower the lower back towards the floor, lifting the arms up and over. So inhaling to open the chest, lifting the arms behind. Exhaling to roll down through the spine, lifting the arms up and over. Inhale to open. Exhale to release and ease down. Inhale one more time to open. Exhaling now, taking your time to lower vertebra by vertebra to the floor, gently bringing those arms up and over. The core engaged. Lift both feet from the mat. Hover the knees directly above the hips. Bring the heels in line with the knees. So we create a 90-degree angle here. Shoulder blades drawn together. Every out breath drawing the tummy button in, lifting the arms directly above the shoulders, palms facing towards one another, thumbs facing towards the back of the room. So we want to again become aware of that natural S shape on the spine. Let's come to a nice released, open chest, resting onto the flats of the shoulder blades. Exhaling to draw the tummy button in and pushing the small of the back to the floor. Try not to hold the breath here. On the next inhalation, extend the arms overhead, resting the thumbs an inch from the floor. Then as you exhale, bring those arms back to that shoulder height position. Inhale to open the arms back. Exhale on the effort to lift the weight of the arms back to center. Inhale, extend the arms back. Exhale, bring the arms back towards center. Then on the next out breath, hug the knees towards the chest. And we'll draw a little figure of 8 with the knees back into that space across the sacrum. Widening, softening those tight muscles in the lower back. Roll back to center and replace the feet to the floor. So take your time now to roll to the side that feels most welcoming for you. If you have low blood pressure, choose the left. Then when you're ready, come back to a seated position. Lovely. So for our seated position today, I'm going to explore a posture called Tadasana. So rather than Sukha pose, which is what we call easy cross-leg pose. So typically when we come to cross-leg, we just cross the feet at the ankles. There is a posture that encourages a little more release in the inner thighs, opens out a little more into the hip joints. So we're going to start by pulling the left heel in towards the groin and allowing gravity to soften that knee away. Rather than crossing the feet at the ankles, we're going to position the right foot so that the heel rests on top or in front of that left foot which is behind. Perfect. Now in this position, I sometimes think it helps to make almost like fists with the hands to lift yourself up off the sit bones and then replace back onto the sit bones. So it really encourages that opening more through the inner thigh, in and around the hips. And it's not unusual in this position to find that one knee is higher than the other because we all have imbalances in the body. It's down to how frequently we can work on one side versus the other. So this for me is my comfortable side, the other side isn't. So we'll bring the hands in front of the ankles, inhale to lift and lengthen. Then as you exhale, start that gentle walk forward. So we often do this in the cross-legged position, and actually our limitation becomes the tension that we feel around the ankles. In this Tadasana position, it gives us much more space in the inner thighs. And the only thing we want to remember is to keep the sit bones connected to the floor. As you bring that upper body weight forward, there's a tendency to lift here. So keep weighted back and down, folding the elbows towards the floor, towards the mat. Every out breath, releasing a little more deeply into this space. As you exhale, engage the core, bring your gaze to the end of the fingertips, and we'll walk the hands back towards the ankles. We'll take the right hand up and over the thigh. A little lift on an inhale to open the chest over that right knee. Then on an out breath, we'll do that little walk forward again. So it's unlikely we will be able to get as far when we come into the side extension. Try not to lift the left sit bone from the mat, so we remain equally weighted as we extend the sternum forward and bring the belly to rest towards the thigh. Then push down into the palms, lift the chest, then walk back towards center. Sally, I'll just check in because I've noticed that this isn't looking comfortable for you. Is it the lower back that it's affecting? Okay, I can't hear you because you're on mute. Lift up out of the sit bones. Let's rotate the rib cage again so that we're facing over the left knee this time. And then we'll come to that little forward fold. So oftentimes twists can they can exaggerate any tension that we have in the lower back. But it's a good way of making sure that we're staying long in these muscles that we tend to hold tight, particularly around the waist and the edge of the hip. Then as you exhale, draw the tummy button in and we'll walk the hands back towards center. Lovely. So in that spirit of keeping that idea of rotation, I always like to visualize that the rib cage is almost like not connected to anything else, that it floats over the body. So if you imagine that you're lifting the rib cage up and we come into a twist, place the left hand on the right knee, avoid pulling that knee towards you. So if anything, applying a little extra pressure, repositioning the right hand behind the hip, then following the rib cage rather than the shoulder to open a little more deeply into this twist. Remind yourself to relax the inner thighs, so let go. And we want to just take our gaze all the way around this space that we find ourselves gazing towards to. So just noticing the quality of light here. As you exhale, engage the core, As you inhale, lift and align again out of the sit bones. On the next out breath, take the opposite hand to the opposite knee. We'll use an inhale again to realign the spine, and exhale to come a little more deeply into the twist. And again, we're just taking the head to look all around this space. Hopefully not noticing any dust in a corner of the room that you haven't looked at for a while. Then on and out breath, keep that core engaged and bring the gaze to face the front of the room again. Let's switch this leg stacking or leg crossing over. So this time we're drawing the right heel in, placing the left heel in front of right. And this is what I mean on the opposite side, this knee doesn't quite behave. There's a tightness here. There's an imbalance in both sides of the body. Extend both arms forward. Bring the palms together. We'll create an interlock, stacking right forefinger over left, opening the hands towards the heart, lining up the back of the head with the tailbone and engaging the core. Turning the hands inside out, then inhaling to lift the arms up overhead. Remember that preference, if we can, of softening the shoulders away from the ears, drawing the undersides of the shoulder blades together. So we're opening through the chest, through the collarbones, pressing through the palms. Then as you exhale, float the hands back to heart center, keeping the core engaged, separating the hands now, and bringing the hands to an interlock behind. Left forefinger to the top, shoulder blades drawn together, core engaged as we slide the hands away from the lower back, opening through the chest. Again, we want to be very mindful of not allowing the weight to draw the head forward, the chest forward. So keep opening through that space in the chest. On an out breath, release, separate the hands. And we'll take the legs wide. So we'll come to create a little space behind the knees. My preference is to create quite a lot of space behind the knees. And then as we go through it, bring the knees a little closer to the floor. If I start too low, I start to get a little grumbly behind the knees. So don't be frightened to leave yourself a big gap. So again, lift up out of the sit bones. We're going to position those hands in front of the body. Shoulder blades again drawn together. As you exhale, start to walk the hands forward. We'll make this really small movements to begin with, so that we're in control of that diagonal line from the back of the head to the tailbone. It might be the further forward you fold, the more comfortable you feel to open the backs of the legs. And then with every out breath, we're bringing the elbows towards the floor, shoulder blades drawn together, and easing a little more deeply into this fold. Now, I've mentioned before that this posture can be very lovely posture for sciatica, but oftentimes if you're holding tension or if there has been any damage to the muscles in the lower back, it can be very difficult to get into. So modify however you feel you need. Having a bend in the knees is always going to be your friend. As you exhale, draw the tummy button in, bring your gaze to the end of the fingertips and walk the hands back towards the body. Lovely. Now we'll slide the feet together. We've done quite a lot of work on the outer thighs when we were laid down, on the inner thighs when we were sat up. So we're now just going to delve a little bit deeper into this space on the outside of the thigh and into that extension through the side of the body. So we'll bring the right knee in, placing the hands on the shins, lifting and lengthening. I'd like to bring that right foot up and over, keeping the left toe pointing up towards the ceiling, wrapping the left hand around the right calf, bringing the right hand behind the hip, lifting up out of the sit bones and coming into an easy twist. If there's space to do so, you might prefer to bring the elbow to the outside of that bent knee. Little bit of pressure as the knee pushes out, the elbow pushes in, and it deepens that opening to the side of the hip as you turn your gaze over the right shoulder. Shoulder blades drawn together, inhaling to lift and lengthen out of the sit bones, Then exhaling to release and bring your gaze forward again. Extend the right leg forward. We'll bring the left knee up and in. So again, to avoid that curvature in the spine, we'll use the hands to lift and align. Then we'll bring that foot up and over. We'll start with the easy twist, the hand to the outside of the calf, then opening through the chest, through the rib cage, turning the gaze towards the back of the room, bringing that elbow across, if that is preferable to you. It gives you that little bit of space to come a little more deeply into the twist. Then as you exhale, release and extend both legs forward. Let's give the legs a little bit of a shake here and just get ourselves in our head that we're standing up. So come up to a standing position. Excuse me for a moment while I open a window. Isn't it funny we're at that stage where the heating still comes on mid-afternoon and we don't need it? I must adjust the timer. Wonderful. So in our standing position, I'd like you to start with your feet a little bit wider than shoulder width apart. So insides of the feet are parallel. The edges of the feet are parallel to the edges of the mat. So rather than having the toes turned out, we can see the toes facing the direction we're going. Keep the knees nice and soft and bring the hands initially to the hips, core engaged, lift through the sternum, then hinge forward. Trying to keep the knees soft, pressing the sit bones to the back of the room, lining up, if you can imagine, the back of the head with the back of the tailbone, opening the backs of the thighs as you become more weighted through the soles of the feet, perhaps noticing a slight stretch starting at the back of the calves. Then on and out breath, bringing the fingertips towards the floor. So for now, keeping it relatively open, relaxed, not overstraining. On an out breath, bending the right knee and then walking the hands over in front of that right foot. This will transfer the stretch to the inside of the left thigh. Remember to keep that toe pointing forward. And as you bring the chest towards the thigh, you can fine tune that stretch to the left inner thigh. Push down into the palms. As you straighten the right leg, start to take your weight over to the left side. So we're taking a bend to the left knee, opening out to the inside of the right inner thigh. Lifting the tailbone, opening the chest, drawing the shoulder blades together. Then once more walking back to center. So as you walk back to center, you might find that instead of fingertips, we can now get the palms to the floor. To ease any resistance at the back of the thighs, walk the hands a little further forward and that will redistribute the weight. So we're not so concerned about that pulling at the back of the thighs. We'll gently press the sit bones to the back of the room, lift the tailbone, almost as if we're doing a downward facing dog. And we'll start to lower the head down so that we can feel the ears between the upper arms. So nice and easy does it. Exhale to draw the tummy button in. Inhale to lift your gaze back towards the end of the fingertips. Then gently walk the hands back underneath the heart. I'm going to suggest that we have a nice bend in the knees so that we're almost in a squat position. Bringing the hands onto the hips. Exhaling to draw the tummy button in. And rather than rolling up through the spine, we'll simply lift the chest and unhinge through the hips. Perfect. Now turn that right toe away from center. So the right toe now, or the right foot now becomes parallel to the front edge of your mat. The back foot remains in that T-shaped position. And effectively, if you glance down, you can see that the front heel is kind of halfway in line with the back foot. Try if you can to set the hips to face forward. Naturally, the hips will want to follow the direction of the front leg. So we're opening the hips forward. softening into slightly less than a 90-degree angle on the front knee. So the reason I mention that is because we're bound to travel a little bit. So if we start here, which Hazel and Jean, I think you're just almost in danger of being too far forward, it doesn't give us a lot of space left, and we might ride over that 90-degree angle. So it's almost better to start a little further back and perhaps move your back leg back if that gives you more opening through the inner thighs. Now that we're in this position, we want the right or the front knee, the right knee over the second toe. And we want to open that left hip back again so that we're facing forward. Perfect. Now widen the arms. You can see that the torso comes straight up from the hips. So there's no leaning to one side, we're centered. Perfect. And turn your gaze over that right arm. On an out breath, draw the sit bones a little deeper to the floor. So we're just sinking a little more to open into this thigh muscle. Perfect. Now sink that left hand onto the left hip. So we're opening that chest, that's perfect. Then inhale to lift the right hand and bring your gaze up to the middle finger of that hand. So we're really opening through the right side of the rib cage. On the out breath, take your body weight forward, bringing that right forearm onto the thigh, lengthening through the left arm. Turn your gaze again up to the middle finger of that hand. So we're opening the chest. It's almost as though we're rotating that rib cage and shoulder back. Inhale, lift up, back into this first position. Then exhale, ease forward. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, ease forward. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, forward. Inhale one more time to lift up. On the exhale, let's float back to that warrior two position. So again, the shoulders are stacked over the hips rather than that forward fold. Perfect. On the next out breath, let's extend that right wrist forward. So we're really, that's it, we're really easing over, not taking a deeper bend in the front knee, just opening through the upper body. Then on an out breath, lift the left hand up, sink the right hand down. And then let's draw that right knee back. So we're straightening that front leg, turning the gaze again up towards the middle finger of the left hand as you sink the right hand a little deeper to the floor. Trikonasana pose. Perfect. Draw the tummy button in. Inhale, lift back to center. Lower the hands back down by your side. We'll roll through that front leg. So we're bringing that right leg now to be the stopper, picking up the front of the left foot and turning it away. Softening the front knee, bringing the hips to face forward, opening that knee again over the second toe. And if you feel that that right knee, right hip has a habit of falling forward, just keep your hand on the hip, keep pulling it back, just to give you that little reminder that the intention is to open through the hips, open through the heart. Sink the right hand to the back of the hip. Inhale, lift, and look up to that right hand, left hand even. As you exhale, come over. We're making the same shape on the other side. So an inhale to lift up, look up, and exhale to hinge over. An inhale to lift up, look up, exhaling to hinge over. So you'll notice that every time we hinge over, we're creating a perfect diagonal through the heel, through the hip, through the shoulder, to the side of the wrist. This time as you inhale to lift up, let's return back to that warrior two position. Reset the hips to face forward, the front knee over the second toe. Turn your gaze over the left arm. Soft and released. Then we'll come into the Trikonasana, the tree pose on this side. Not tree pose, sorry, triangle. So exhale to extend the wrist over. Lower that hand down. As you lift the right hand up, turn your gaze up to the middle finger. At this point, you can start to pull that left leg straight. We don't lock the knee. And we keep looking up to the middle fingers of the right hand as we sink the left fingers towards the floor. As you exhale, engage the core. As you inhale, lift, coming back to center. We'll turn both toes to face forward. Hands again on the hips, soften the knees, and then hinge into that forward fold once more. This time in our forward fold, we want to take hold of the elbows, bringing the elbows parallel to the floor. Again, it's helpful to keep pushing the chest forward, softening the shoulders away from the ears. And with every out breath, just coming a little more deeply into this fold. Now separate the hands from the elbows. Let's rest the hands either on the shins, on the ankles, shoulder blades drawn together, and lift the gaze forward. Reposition the hands onto the thighs. Rather than rolling through the spine, mindfully engage the core. Inhale, unhinge and lift up. Perfect. Now step the feet together. Oh, easier said than done. We're ready to go horse riding now, aren't we? Bet you're wishing you hadn't started all that. Brilliant. Inner thighs worked out. Tick. So now we'll bring the hands onto the hips. We've got the feet together into our mountain pose. So while we're in mountain pose, I'll just recap on what I was talking about earlier with the posture. So quite often, we naturally see that posture dictates over the years that we tend to kind of swing the hips forward. As a 1990s aerobics instructor, I'm very guilty of that. We led with our pelvises because it was all like pelvic thrusts and all that. So we got really into this habit of leading with the hips, and it's taken years to undo it. Obviously, the contrast to that is some people have a lot of excessive arc in their lower back because we tend to push the bottom back, and then we've kind of hunch forward in the upper body. So equally, that's not comfortable either. So to find a good neutral spine position, visualize that this space between the hips is almost like a basin, if you will. So if you imagine that this space carries a bowl of liquid, if you can imagine, if you're pressing the hips forward, the liquid's all going to be flowing out the back. And if you're doing the opposite effect, the liquid's all going to flow out the front. So we want to get to a point where the hips are square and that bowl of liquid is perfectly balanced. There's a little bit of engagement involved here, a little bit of concentration. It helps as you exhale to draw the tummy button in. It might help, it helps me certainly, to tuck that tailbone under. That reminds me to stop pushing the hips forward. And then another helpful tip is to press the thighs back. So we can keep the knees soft, but let's not be riding forward on the hips. Let's tuck the tailbone under, press the thighs back. And it actually adds about an inch. So it lengthens you as well as strengthens what's going on in the core, through the butt and into the thighs. So that's us now in proper mountain pose. Turn the palms towards the front of the room. Then as you inhale, lift the arms up overhead. Press through the fingertips, soften the shoulders down away from the ears, and sink the weight equally through the soles of the feet. Try to avoid all the weight into the heels. So feel the soles of the feet open, and every out breath, draw the feet to the floor. Every in breath, lengthen through the legs, through the spine, through the fingertips. Then on the next exhale, keep the core engaged and bring the hands back to the hips. So we're long mountain pose. On an out breath, as we did when we did the wide leg fold, we're simply going to fold forward into a 90-degree angle at the hips, pressing the sit bones to the back of the room, lining up the back of the head with the tailbone, shoulder blades drawn together, opening the thighs, just avoiding, if we can, locking the knees out. Beautiful. Now, on an out breath, we want to take our weight back. So we're bending the knees, but the emphasis isn't on traveling the knees forward. It's on pushing the sit bones towards the back of the room as we come into a squat posture. So in a squat posture, the belly, the chest is resting on the thighs. The underside of the thighs are parallel to the floor. I find it easy to just bring the hands to a very relaxed Anjali Mudra in front of the heart, keeping the shoulder blades drawn together, and again maintaining that straight line from the back of the head to the tailbone. Every out breath drawing the tummy button in. Every in breath focusing on cooling down the thighs. On the next inhale, pressing into the soles of the feet, then lifting, bringing the arms overhead, softening the shoulders down away from the ears. So we don't want to undo all that good work we've done into creating our nice, stable, neutral pelvis. So let's keep those thighs pressed back, lift the sternum on a breath in, and on a breath out, visualize that you're opening the upper thoracic spine. So there's no movement in the lower back. We're opening the heart space. Then as you exhale, engage the core, slide the hands back towards heart. Then we'll simply step the left foot forward. So we're keeping the right foot to the back. You can have a little look down to make sure that that back toe isn't rolling out. Ideally, come onto the ball of the foot, then gently press the heel to the floor. Make sure that you're equally weighted through the back foot and the front foot, bringing the hands onto the hips again, lengthening that front leg, inhaling to lift through the sternum, keeping the shoulders parallel to the floor as you exhale once more into a 90-degree angle, shoulder blades drawn together. With every out breath, just easing a little more deeply into this fold. I think hands on hips is helpful, simply because it helps you feel if the hips are moving, if one hip is higher than the other. And just remind yourself to just iron out that little bend in the front knee. As you exhale, draw the tummy button in, lift back to center, and we'll simply switch the legs over. So step forward and back. I like to make sure that my feet are at least hip width distance apart. If they're one in front of the other, balance becomes more challenging. Insides of the feet parallel. Front knee again is drawn up towards the hip, hands on the hips, exhaling to hinge forward. And we're always keeping that straight line from the back of the head through the shoulders to the back of the hips, rather than encouraging that curve in the spine. You can feel as you push the sit bones back, as you weight more into that front foot, that you're deepening the stretch to the back of the hamstring. Then as you exhale, draw the tummy button in. As you inhale, lift, coming back towards center. Then once more, stepping the feet together. I'll just adjust my position so I'm facing you, turning the palms towards the front of the room, inhaling to lift the arms up overhead. Using right hand to take hold of the left wrist, just draw that arm a little longer, then on an out breath, come over the midline of the body. Inhaling again to just tug a little more on that top arm. Exhaling, engage the core, come back to center. Opposite hand to opposite wrist, and inhale to lengthen, and exhale to release, and inhale to come a little more deeply into that space at the side. Engage the core, inhale back to center. Then once more, bring the hands back to an Anjali Mudra. Just have the fingertips, the base of the wrist gently touching. Relax the jaw. And for a moment, just close the eyes. Tune into your breath. Engage your core. Then when you're ready, lift the right foot from the mat. Bring the knee to a 90-degree angle, the underside of the foot parallel to the floor. It's much harder when the eyes are closed, so by all means blink the eyes open. Then use that big toe to draw 3 circles in towards the midline of the body, changing direction. Then replacing that foot to the floor. Take a deep breath in, a full breath out. When we balance on the other side, we won't hold the breath. So lift the other knee. Tune into the breath. Underside of the foot parallel to the floor. The knee as high as the hip. Then using the big toe to draw those circles. Again, we're not holding the breath. Then replace that foot to the floor. Easier said than done, eh? Inhale, lift the arms overhead. As you exhale, allow as much bend in the knees as you like. We're simply going to bring the chest to the thighs, bring the palms to the floor, tuck the chin under, and just allow a little space in the lower back. No need to stretch the back of the thighs now. Let's just make it nice and released, softening any tension in the lower back. Slide the hands back onto the thighs. Draw the tummy button in, roll up through the spine, then roll the shoulders back and down. Squeeze the shoulders up. A big shrug, let the shoulders go. One more time, squeeze the shoulders up. Then a shrug, let the shoulders go. Perfect. So when you're ready, I'll invite you to come back down to a supine position. So if you prefer to lie on your back, decide whether you want the knees bent or to lengthen the legs. And Jean, hopefully all that knee bending wasn't insult to injury after your bike ride. I realised when we were in Warrior 2, I thought, oh, she'll be loving this. So make yourself comfortable. And notice that as we release towards the floor again, that any tension that we may have been aware of when we first came to our practice, hopefully we've balanced out a little bit. We've ironed out those imbalances through the shoulders, through the hips. And we've created all that extra space through the side of the rib cage, on the inner thigh, the outer thigh, so that we almost feel as though we've had a right good stretch and the body feels in balance again. Remind yourself to unclench the jaw, to soften the tongue in the well of the mouth, to release the cheeks, to soften the eyebrows, and to bring your awareness back again to the breath. Widening and expanding, softening and releasing. Remember, every out-breath is a letting go. Releasing your body of any tension, any negative energy. Filling your body with positive energy. Recharging your batteries. Preparing you for a positive day and week ahead. Maintain your focus on this deepened, lengthened breath, reminding yourself to come to the end of each full breath transactions. There's no rush, no need to cut any corners. Simply rest here. Breathe here. And invite your body to release here. Scan your body from head to toe. And let your awareness rest at the soles of the feet. Relax the right foot. Relax the left foot. Feel both feet fully release and relax. Relax in and around the ankles, the calves, the shins. Softening the weight of your lower legs as you relax the ankles, the calves and the shins. Let go of that tension around the knees. Unclench here. Soften the thighs, releasing that space in the inner thighs. Allowing the backs of the thighs and the buttocks to soften and release. Welcome that softening through the lower back, between the hips. And feel the weight of your lower body sink a little more deeply into the earth beneath you. Bring your awareness to the weight of your hands by your side. Soften the fingers. Relax the palms of the hands. Release in and around the wrists, the forearms, and the elbows. Soften the upper arms. Releasing tension in and around the right shoulder. Traveling along the collarbone to release in and around the left shoulder. Feel the weight of your upper body equally spread between the shoulder blades and that space at the back of the sacrum. Let the back of your head become heavy. Become aware of the weight of your whole body, easing a little more deeply into the earth beneath you. Every out breath, letting go. Inhaling deeply to nourish and energize. Exhaling fully to cleanse and relax. Anytime you feel your attention wander, simply return your focus to the breath. Now start to make each exhalation a little noisier. Breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. Perhaps releasing this next breath out with an audible sigh. Gradually now nudging the breath back towards a natural, easy rhythm. Bringing your awareness back to your physical body, your place within this room. Noticing the texture of your clothing against your skin. And allowing the cool air that surrounds you to start to gradually reawaken. Wiggling fingers, wiggling toes, wiggle the jaw a little, wiggle the nose. If your legs are outstretched, you may wish to take a long stretch through the body. It may feel more comfortable for you to hug the knees to the chest and release any tension in the lower back. Just take your time, rolling to whichever side is most welcoming to you. Pausing there for a moment to blink the eyes open. Then returning once more to a comfortable, seated position. Oh, a few sleepy faces. Now bring your hands to an Anjali Mudra. Touch to the head for kind thoughts, to the lips for kind words, and to the heart for kind intentions. The light in me honors the light in you. Namaste.